always had that mindset of why is a building designed so loosely, so flagrantly? Why can't we actually look at it like a machine, like a very precise piece of equipment going together? So I suppose that really drove the desire and the passion in me for looking at BIM and treating BIM in the same sort of sense, designing a building almost like it is a prefabricated item, like we could literally bring it to site, like
exactly.
a big Meccano set and put it together. Lego, so at the start, it was a very much question is why can we not? So I suppose I've spent 20 years of my life proving that it can, in fact, be done. And that's exactly where I've got to at the moment.
Yeah, it's amazing contrast, isn't it, actually, machining a piece or a tool or a component versus how we approach the construction industry. It's very much about let's figure it out on site and what do we do next? And I think, well, we should do this, as opposed to, well, hang on a second, we had this decision made 6-9 months ago on the design in the model. That's how you build it. That's what you build it to.
Yeah, well, you've always had two camps in construction. You've always had the design side and the guys and the men and women on the ground, the boots on the ground that actually put it together and build it. And over the last 20 years, we've seen these two worlds collide almost and become one as such. And that's not to say that it's been easy. It certainly hasn't. Certainly when I started 20 years ago, it was very much still that traditional mindset of the drawings were just a rough indicator. This is roughly how it should go together. And the onus was very much on the boots on the ground to have the experience and understand these systems inherently and being able to put them together. Obviously, BIM over the last 20 years has been very focused on architecture and that side of it. But obviously, I'm a building services engineer. I come from it from a completely different angle. We almost have to treat the building like a component because the systems that we were trying to design and fabricate and put together need that requirement of that sort of level of consideration. And you can draw till the cows come home, but is it installable? Is it commissionable? Will it run? Will it feel? There's so many layers to that cake when you look at the built-in services side of it, as regards to the architectural side of it, where it's more the onus is on artistry and conceptualization, which is a skill in itself. But for me, I've always treated construction like a big Meccano set. How do we get this? And once I had sort of spent quite a lot of time mastering the software side of it, then the onus for me then became the translation of that from the design guys, bridging that gap basically between the boots on the ground and the design people in the office. Making those two worlds seamlessly fit together has been my
and the value that can create for the business, for the teams, for both stakeholder groups, if you like, that pre-con and post-con.
It's very hard to see any negative from that process. Everybody gets better, everybody gets faster, they become more invested. Obviously, financially it's better. There's less wastage, your carbon footprint. It's very, very hard to see any negative of it because it also drives all the stakeholders to have a bit more current consideration for it too.
The only negative really is the mindsets of people sometimes. It's just negative. It's a negative mindset, meaning it makes it a little bit more difficult for you to come in and go, come on, there's value in this, but how could there be value? We're going to spend more money doing the BIM model. Like, it's costing me more money. You're going,
I mean, everybody has that initial knee-jerk reaction of, oh my goodness, how much is this going to cost? But they don't see the wood for the trees. Yes, it's a very big investment, and you do have a bit of a sharp shock at the start, having to buy the computers, buy the hardware, bring people in to train. Once you get over that initial hurdle and that hump, as I call it, it's actually smooth.
That's when the efficiencies come.
That's when it starts to be seen.
And it's not a couple of months; it's a couple of years transition period, really. So your return on your investment there from a design contractor, design and build services company, like you're not talking about turning it around in a year. You really first of all need the buy-in from the stakeholder groups, from management. You need the investment there, and then you need the plan of transition. Basically,
it's a very long process, and it needs somebody at the helm who understands it intrinsically and understands the value of it and understands what can be gained from it to try and drive it. If you're kind of shooting into the dark, you may get some very quick local successes, but on the long term, it will fail. You won't implement the workflows correctly. You won't implement the right training procedures or everything that goes with it, and it can fall very quickly on its face. And then it's almost like we tried it and it didn't work, but you didn't give it the real try you should. When I think back to when we started doing Revit and BIM 20 years ago in Keynes, it was literally almost like transitioning from CAD to Revit. It was very tentative. It was just like AutoCAD 2.0.
Yeah.
We coordinated everything in 3D, but then we actually spat out 2D DWGs to hand to someone else to then do all the title blocks and stuff, and then that created another divide in the workflow. And that if the Revit guy, and I say Revit guy, it was only me. I was the only Revit guy. So if I had to been off or anything like that, the whole team around just stopped. And I kind of left Keynes for a while and went out on my own and did my own BIM consultancy and got a wee bit more experience and come back 2 years later, and they were still doing it that way. And I was like, right, well, guys, now we're going to do sheets in Revit, and everything's going to be. And even at that stage, it was mind blowing, and the change. And we don't have to go that workflow. You know, the time taken on a drawing compressed really quickly again. And I suppose that really was a catalyst for me to look at all of the processes, all of the workflows over the last 20 years, and understanding areas where we were spending quite a lot of time with very little return. So making fusion sheets, for example. There was one job that we did where there was 1,200 drawings had to come out of the Revit model. And when I sat with a back of the envelope calculation and worked out, it was probably around about 10 minutes per sheet by the time I created the sheet, put all the information in, set the view on, made it all look nice. For 1,200 sheets, that worked out about 8 weeks work for one person. And even the human side of that, to ask someone to spend 8 weeks of their life doing that.
It's like
I certainly wasn't going to do it. Oh my goodness! So it's dehumanizing. You know, it's awful. So again, automation started coming into our workflows, and how do we actually make this faster? How do we automate this? How do we remove human error? Never in a sense to replace anyone as such.
No.
Always another feather in the cap for all of our team. Make it faster,
more
make
efficient.
it better, efficiency. So you're saying about the change in the technologies. It's actually been overwhelming at times when you actually look at it, and there's been so many things to consider and get almost right in the overall cloud around us to make them all point inwards and start to work seamlessly together. It has been quite.
It takes time, you know, because you come back to, you know, you don't know what you don't know, and a lot of what you're talking about here, you're trying to upskill, train, educate people about the efficiencies they create, but a lot of people wouldn't look at the fact it was going to take one man 8 weeks or one person 8 weeks to do all these short sheets of drawings. That actually, if we do it in an alternative way, this time next year, we will never do this again. And the amount of time, it's not just the 8 weeks, it's that compounded on every project year after year for as long as you want to run now, you know?
Well, that's it. I mean, everybody gets very stuck in their ways, don't they? You know, you have a tried and tested way and you think that's the only way to do it. I've never ever felt that way. I always think that there must be there's a better way to do this, and not to ever take away from anyone's job. It's just that you sit and watch someone doing a task that you think to yourself, I wouldn't like to do that myself. Do you know what I mean? I really don't enjoy that. So I wouldn't ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't certainly do. So I always watch the team and look for any frustrations within a team. And if I hear anyone giving off or saying, surely there's a better way, that's almost like we'll put a pin in that and we'll come up with a concept. And lots of our Dynamo scripts and automation workflows have derived simply from watching people struggle and saying, is there a way we could get better at this? We're wasting time.